Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the PFN Dallas Cowboys podcast. Now, you may notice I'm flying solo this week, and that's because Jess had some prior commitments that she needed to deal with, mainly getting the coordinator's quotes from the Dallas Cowboys. So, I'm with you guys today. I'm going to be breaking down the Seattle Seahawks game on Thursday night. I know it's been a long time since that game was played, but I think it's still important to talk about some of the things that happened on that Thursday night game. And then we are going to dive into the Sunday night football game for not all of the marbles, but for a lot of marbles, because the Philadelphia Eagles will be coming to Dallas to face the Dallas Cowboys after getting absolutely mollywopped by the San Francisco 49ers, even though Dom tried to fight a San Francisco 49ers defender. Now, that's not exactly what happened. There was a little bit of a shove, and apparently Dom is some kind of folk hero for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is the head of security. That was one of the most entertaining offensive drives of football I think that I've ever seen. It ended up in a Philadelphia touchdown. But Philly got stomped 42-19 against San Francisco 49ers. And I think more than anything, it just kind of shows that the 49ers are the real deal. They are probably, if not definitely, the best team in the NFL. When they are healthy, I don't think that there is much of an argument when you see what they did to Philadelphia last night. Philadelphia's defense had no answer for them, and the 49ers defense was fantastic. But let's talk a little bit about Thursday night football. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys against the Seattle Seahawks. And guys, I don't breathe very well. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but most of the time I'm wearing a breathing strip on my nose. So we're going to be going a little bit slower today so I can breathe. So if you need to, put that podcast speed at 1.5 or 2x. I know it sounds a little bit weird when you're doing it, but it might be what's best for your listening ears this week. Now, Dallas Cowboys win 41-35 in an absolute thriller. Dak Prescott once again having an outrageous game. He was 29-41, 299 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times. And I felt like Seattle's defensive front had a good game plan for attacking the Dallas Cowboys. I think that Dak Prescott's need to be a playmaker has made him the MVP frontrunner, first of all. But it has also led to a few more sacks this year. He absolutely does not want to throw the ball away unless he absolutely has to. But he's finding a way to be a playmaker, take a couple of sacks, but also not take a bunch of risks with the football as a passer. Now, when you look at the other side of things, Geno Smith, 23 of 41, so completion percentage wasn't fantastic, but he threw for 334 yards, 8.1 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick to Deron Bland, of course, and no sacks. And that's where I want to start. I want to start with this Dallas Cowboys defense against the Seattle Seahawks offense. Should we be worried about the Cowboys defense? Yes and no. I don't think the performance against San Francisco is indicative of some huge issue for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that Geno Smith played better than he has all year. He got to the last step of his drop, and he was delivering the football before the pass rush could get to him. He was an assassin when it came to that. And there were times where Micah Parsons and that crew were able to get close to him, but they could never finish the job because he was getting the ball out much quicker than he has on average this year. The one thing to note about this matchup in particular is Caleb Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Tyler Lockett going up against a defense that loves to hang out in man coverage. And while Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore are playing really good football right now, safeties aren't playing great football right now. Malik is still playing fine. But the other two starting safeties haven't really played great football for most of the season, and they are not playing great football right now. When you look at what happened in this football game in particular with DaRon Bland, it was just DK being an elite receiver or a near elite receiver. I think elite is giving him a little bit too much credit. He's a top 8 to 15 guy in the NFL. But he's big, physical, athletic. And when you have a quarterback and a wide receiver that are on the exact same page and they put the ball where only his guy can get it, that's what happened with DK Metcalf and DaRon Bland in this football game. Bland was in good position a lot of the time, but you were looking at the problem with being a 5'9", 5'10" corner on the outside playing against a 6'3", 230-pound guy who runs a 4.3. That was a physical mismatch. And then when you add to the fact that Dallas wants to sit and play man coverage all of the time against a really, really good receiving core, that's going to be an issue. It's an even bigger issue when you look at guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba, who, yes, he 62 yards on 7 catches, so none of what he did was very explosive. But he didn't really need to be explosive because DK Metcalf obviously had the 73-yard touchdown. That was a poor angle and poor safety play that kind of led to that. But I think when you look at this matchup, it was a top 2 or 3 receiving core in the NFL against a really good secondary, but with the quarterback who was getting the ball out before the defensive line was really able to affect him in the way that they wanted to. And they threw games at him. I thought that they did a really good job of beating the opposing offensive line, which it was always going to be a problem for Seattle going into this football game because the offensive tackles are very good and they have some issues on the interior, mainly at right guard and at center. So that was always going to be an issue, and they mitigated that by getting the ball out quickly. Now, I thought Dallas defensively, they kind of did this last year too, where in the beginning of the season they started out, they were really multiple on the back end. They were playing a lot of different coverages. And obviously you saw the one play where Rashaan Evans was in coverage up the seam. It was a defensive pass interference. And that's just the Tampa 2 that he likes to run in that certain situation. That's Dan Quinn likes to run in that situation. But a little bit more zone in this game in particular against those wide receivers could probably have helped you. I think that he has gotten a little bit comfortable, and I think that the Cowboys last year got a little bit comfortable really leaning on man coverage and trying to take the fight to the offense. And at some point, it just wasn't the right call for that game. But you work all week on what your game plan is going to be. And, of course, if you get punched in the mouth, you have to adjust a little bit. But there's only so many adjustments that you're going to make throughout the course of a game. There's only so many adjustments that you made when they go into motion and they give you certain looks. You're not going to be able to check to a random defensive play. So I just thought that it was a really good game plan by Seattle, and they executed it at an incredibly high level. But the safety play is a little bit of an issue right now. And so I wonder what Dan Quinn and this defensive staff are going to do to mitigate some of those issues. I thought that they did a really good job against the run. Obviously, they didn't have their best running back. They didn't have their explosive weapon in the backfield, and that helped the Dallas Cowboys out a little bit. I thought that the linebacker play was actually not that bad. It was better than I expected it to be. I think that Marquise Bell is a fantastic player, and I know that there's been talk about him and talk about Shaq Leonard, and is Bell really a linebacker? Well, he's playing linebacker right now, and he's doing a pretty darn good job. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, you had CeeDee Lamb really hogging targets, and he wasn't as explosive against Seattle as we've seen him be in recent weeks. And this passing attack, what makes me so happy about what we saw on Thursday night is the longest pass of the game was 23 yards for the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at their possessions, 14-play drive, field goal. 11-play drive, touchdown. 16-play drive, field goal. 12-play drive, touchdown. Then they had a 6-play drive, a 7-play drive, a 6-play drive. They sustained drives. They had 9 first downs on that first drive of the second half where they ended up scoring. Just a fantastic display of consistent offensive efficiency. And that all comes down to the changes that they made schematically during the bye week. And I didn't expect it, and everybody that is a Dallas Cowboys fan, analyst, has been screaming it from the rooftops for years now to use more motion, to get ideal looks, to get advantageous looks through motion and formations. They're finally doing it. Dak Prescott is doing a fantastic job at creating and using his legs as a passer. He's been unbelievable on the move this year. He has found that rapport, and he already had it towards the back half of last year with CeeDee Lamb. But 17 targets in this game. Lamb has become a legitimate number one top target guy who you aren't going to necessarily force feed, but who you are going to mold your offense around. 12 of 17, 116 yards. He had the touchdown. Jake Ferguson continues to show you that Luke Schoonmaker was a redundant draft pick. And, Schoon had a nice catch in this game as well. But Fergie is the real deal at the position, and he will be for the next couple of seasons. Brandon Cooks, he only had 4 targets, but Dak Prescott has been doing a very good job of distributing the ball around. He was 4 for 4 on his targets. He had a touchdown. And I like that they have gotten him more involved. I love how they've gotten Jalen Tolbert more involved and Michael Gallup less involved. And that has nothing to do necessarily with Michael Gallup and his struggles this year, but showing that Tolbert belongs on the football field at the NFL level, I think has been fantastic for his own confidence more than anything else. The other thing I wanted to talk about was CeeDee Lamb. 2 touches on the ground, 15-yard average, 24-yard long. That's the type of versatility and creativity that I've been looking for in this offense, especially because this is not a good running football team. They don't do it very well. Now, they've been somewhat successful in the way that they run. Like when you look at their rushing success rate, they aren't terrible. They're 11th. Rushing EPA has gotten a little bit better. It's actually 9th, but I don't look at this team as a good running football team. I mean, when you look at it, Tony Pollard, he had a couple of decent runs in this past game, but there's not that consistent presence, and I still wish that Rico Dowdle, who I know he only averaged 3 yards per carry on his 5 carries, but I think he needs a little bit more play. I think Tony Pollard needs to remain a little bit fresher. The problem with trying to take Tony Pollard off of the field is that he's really rounded into a fantastic pass protector, which in turn makes it difficult for him to come off of the field, on second and third downs, those obvious passing downs when they need it. But I love that this team has kind of leaned on the passing game early, often, and changed things up to become maybe not more unpredictable, but become tougher to cover because of the motion and the shifts and the formations that they are using now. And then you have to look at this game, at the very end. Seattle up 35-27 in the fourth quarter, and the Dallas Cowboys offense and the Dallas Cowboys defense making a couple of stops when they absolutely needed to. Seattle turned the ball over on downs in each of their last 3 offensive possessions, and the Cowboys went field goal, touchdown, field goal, and they won this football game because of it. So you really have to feel good about this offense, and you have to feel good that not every football team is going to be able to replicate what the Seattle Seahawks were able to do offensively, because their quarterback was on one and their wide receivers are just that talented overall. The problem is their next opponent offensively can give you a lot of those same issues. Let's get into the Philadelphia Eagles matchup. But before we get to the Philadelphia Eagles matchup, we are going to talk about some swag. All right? It is almost Christmas, you guys. And the PFN merchandise store is now open just in time for the holiday seasons. Or the holiday season. Visit pfnmerch.com for exclusive shirts, sweaters, hats, and more for the football fan in your life. Act now. Take advantage of the deals that we have going on and go to pfnmerch.com today. Quick, easy holiday presents for your loved ones. Now, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles suffered a deflating loss on Sunday afternoon against the San Francisco 49ers at home. There was a time where, listen, slow game, which makes 42 points sound even crazier. There were 9 possessions on offense for the Philadelphia Eagles, and there was 8 offensive possessions for the San Francisco 49ers. 9 if you count their final drive, which was 4 plays, 10 yards. They ran the clock out. So slow game, and yet somehow the 49ers still put up 42 points on this defense. How did that happen? Well, 49ers offense is outrageous. They went 11 plays, 10 plays, 7 plays, 5 plays, 12 plays, and then 2 plays, all touchdown drives. That is 6 consecutive touchdown drives. We saw this earlier in the season from them as well. And when we look at the San Francisco 49ers season just in general, they're not just winning football games. The only single possession game that they have won this year is against the Los Angeles Rams. The Browns game that they lost by 2 points. They lost by 5 to Minnesota, and then they kind of got bludgeoned by the Cincinnati Bengals. That was all before the bye. That was with Trent Williams hurt. That was with Deebo Samuel hurt. Those guys are back. Other wins, 30-7 against Pittsburgh, 30-12 against the Giants, 42-10 against the Dallas Cowboys, 34-3 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 31-13 against Seattle, and then 42-19 against the Philadelphia Eagles. When they are on and when they are healthy, they are the best team in the NFL, and it is not particularly close. So I don't even think that you can look at that Dallas Cowboys game against San Francisco and feel too bad about it. It's just the best team in the NFL, and it doesn't make the Dallas Cowboys any worse. It's just a little bit of a kryptonite that this team exists, and when they get half-decent quarterback play from their Mr. Irrelevant quarterback, Kyle Shanahan's offense, Kyle Shanahan's defense, that pass rush, it's tough to beat this football team. And Philadelphia found that out. But we do have to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, because when you look at them offensively, they're still very good. They're 5th in EPA on offense, and they're good all around. They're, drop back EPA, they're 5th. Drop back success rate, they are 12th. Rushing EPA, they are 6th. And rushing success rate, they are 7th. They are good all around on offense. And even when one aspect of their game is off, if they're not passing the ball well, they can run it down your throats. The brotherly shove is indefensible. They can literally just do that all the way down the field, and it would probably work until Jalen Hurts got injured. But when you look at them defensively, they are a very flawed football team. When you look at their EPA, and it obviously dropped way down after yesterday, but even if you look at it before their Week 13 loss to the San Francisco 49ers, they were 22nd in defensive EPA per play. This is a flawed defense. They were 23rd after the Monday night game. 23rd. Success rate is a little bit higher, but they're giving up big plays. They're 12th in success rate. Dropback EPA, 20th. Dropback success rate, they rank 14th. Rushing EPA, they rank 17th. And rushing success rate, they are 5th. So it's a defense that is more successful than it is technically good. And it's because they can give up big plays, and they give up big plays because the spine of their defense is bad. Linebacker play has not been good for the Philadelphia Eagles. Safety play has not been great for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that has really hurt their defense, specifically because the cornerback play hasn't been as good either. James Bradbury's made a couple of really big plays this year, but his play is not up to the level that it was last season. Darius Slay is still a very good player, but he is already a 32-year-old cornerback, and they have had a couple of injuries defensively that have hurt them. But more than anything, schematically, things have changed a little bit, and this Sean Desai defense that is based very, very tightly on Vic Fangio's style needs strong safety play to be successful. And they're just not getting that. Teams are able to really attack them, particularly over the middle of the field in passing game. It's kind of where Dallas flourishes on offense. So I think it's going to be another game like what we saw when the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys first met in Week 9, where, yeah, it was 28-23, but both of these offenses looked pretty darn good. When you look at it, 27 first downs from the Cowboys in that last game, 20 for the Philadelphia Eagles, 400 yards of offense for the Cowboys, 300 for the Eagles. And this is a game that Dallas really kind of outplayed the Philadelphia Eagles and just came up short in some really important situations. And I think that's the next step of the evolution of this Dallas Cowboys team. They need to be able to figure out how to win ugly games. Look at the Dallas Cowboys, not just this year, but over the past 2 years. Blew out the Giants this year, blew out the Jets. It's very much like the San Francisco 49ers, who just win big games and have been losing close games. It is a sign of a really good and dominant team, but they haven't been able to scrap out wins when they really needed to. 38-3 against the Patriots. 20-17 against the Chargers, which looks bad now because the Chargers are not a very good football team, but they won a closely contested game. Beat the tar out of the Rams in Week 8, lost to the Eagles in a close game, destroyed the Giants, destroyed the Panthers, destroyed the Commanders. The Seahawks game was huge for them, and it was huge for them because they were playing a good team who, yes, the Seahawks were on a little bit of a skid. They had lost 2 straight before to the Rams, to the 49ers. The Rams, a better football team than we, I think, give them credit for. And then the 49ers, obviously, the best team in the NFL. They executed incredibly well, really took it to the Cowboys defensively, and the Cowboys offense had to claw back. I think what we've seen, especially in all of the San Francisco 49ers games for the Dallas Cowboys, is the offense gets behind a little bit, and they're not able to really claw their way back. We've seen them kind of blow up. We've seen Dak Prescott, specifically against the 49ers, not be able to overcome that Fred Warner boogeyman over the middle of the field. That will not be an issue against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that Dallas is primed to win this football game and really take it to the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward in the divisional run late. Now, I would like to see the line for this football game, which I'm going to right now look up in real time. Talk amongst yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Dallas is favored by 3.5 points. That makes sense. I think that when you look at it, Dallas defensively, 3rd in EPA per play, and they are 13th in success rate, so a little bit lower success rate defensively. And then when you look at offense, they are the 2nd best offense in the NFL, behind the San Francisco 49ers, who are the best offense in the NFL in terms of EPA. And I personally like EPA. They're actually 3rd now because the Miami Dolphins got to play the Washington Commanders. But the Dallas Cowboys passing attack right now is outrageous. When you look at them since Week 7, and now San Francisco's day against Philadelphia may have changed this, and they may be at the top. No, they're still not. When you look at the drop back EPA for the Dallas Cowboys since week 7, since the bye week, it is .358, and the San Francisco 49ers at .344. 49ers have a higher success rate. It's really, really nice when you can throw the ball at the line of scrimmage and Deebo Samuel can take it for 100 yards. There's no need to get cocky. There's no need to get on social media and talk. The Dallas Cowboys don't talk like San Francisco 49ers do anyways. Not anymore. The hot boys are dead. Michael will talk on the podcast, but we can deal with that. They need to stand on business this week. They need to go in. They need to play the same brand of football that they have played since the bye. They should have beat the Eagles. They should have come up in those critical situations where they couldn't. But since the bye, it's a completely different offense. And while this defense does scare me a little bit because they have historically struggled against mobile quarterbacks, I do think that they have also done a very good job over the years of game planning for quarterbacks and teams within their own division. That's why they've had so much success playing within the division. But if they don't win this game, it's over. And being the 5th seed and having a chance at the 1 seed, and even if the Cowboys win this game, it is not likely, in my opinion, that they go on to get the 1 seed, because I think San Francisco probably has the best shot at it. But I also find it hard to believe that even if they win this game, they win the division, because they still have the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, and Detroit Lions on the schedule after this game. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles have already gone through that part of the schedule and won those games. They have the Seahawks after the Cowboys. Seahawks could do us a huge favor with a win there. But then they have the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Giants. And I just don't see Philadelphia failing to show up against either of those 3 teams. Any of those 2 teams in those 3 games. So I think that this win, while it could be very good for the confidence of the Dallas Cowboys going forward to fight for this division, I find it hard to believe that when all is said and done, they are going to go out there and beat the Miami Dolphins and beat the Buffalo Bills and beat the Detroit Lions. I think that they drop one of those games, if not more. But with the way that they're playing, I also don't think that we can rule out that possibility. The last thing I would like to do is give my PF MVP of the Seattle game, and it has to be Dak Prescott. Dak is the front runner right now for the MVP award. And I think when you look at what this offense is, when you look at what the run game is, when you look at how they are winning these football games, the numbers that he is putting up, the efficiency that he has put up since the bye week in particular. And yes, it does matter what you have done for me lately in the NFL. And if he can go through and have a stretch against Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, even if they lose a couple of those games, if he continues to play at the level that he has played at, it is going to be hard for voters not to give him the award at the end of the year. And then we're looking at a record-setting contract once again for Dak Prescott, which is more than deserved for him as a player. That's all I got for today, guys. I think that the Eagles game is one that the Cowboys are favored. I think that the Cowboys should be favored. I think that they are the better football team, even though the record does not indicate that. And I think that if they show up and they handle the business that they need to, I think that they come away with a win and a chance to fight for the division title and more of a long shot, the 1 seed in the NFC. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope that you guys are giving us 5-star ratings on wherever you listen to your podcast. I hope that you guys are engaging with the YouTube video. I know it's just my ugly face on here today, but Jess will be back next week. She might be flying solo next week. She might not be. I do not know yet. I am on baby watch at this point, so I might not be around for much longer. But as always, guys, I don't get to say this on this podcast as much, but I say it on the scouting podcast every week. I love you. Goodbye.